Welcome back, guys.
Yeah,
In fact, I should say welcome back half Spud in the Box.
Yeah.
Because the others are missing today.
Yes.
We're here again to congratulate you for being nominated for an award, and not just in one but 4 categories. So congratulations from all of us.
Thank you.
And from the last time that we kind of had a conversation, it's been a while. You all have done a lot of shows in that period.
Right.
You all have grown as musicians. We now have Joshua also as one of the new members of the band.
Yeah.
So, is there anything that you would like to share with us that has grown, over you as musicians, as performers on stage, that in the last 1 year or recently that you've learned? And
I think this change of lineup is probably the biggest
bonus
catalyst for the growth that we've kind of experienced in the last, I'd say, 3-4 months. I think in the last 2-3 months we've, as musicians, grown the most solely because of the fact that we've had to accommodate a completely new musician into a setup that was existing as it was for 2 years. So bringing someone completely new into it, opening up spaces in each song to kind of
Fit
to the
style.
change, to the change, to varying styles and varying
Tastes.
dynamics and tastes. So I think that has been the biggest kind of catalyst for the growth that we've, I think, kind of gone through in the last 3 months. Because even on stage, then you have to, because when one person will obviously perform a completely different way than the other person, so then you kind of realize that what may be missing or what is needed now for to get your performance on stage to a certain level. So I think we've kind of changed around things and are performing a lot more actually to kind of keep with the energy and just the changes that have gone through.
correct. Speaking of change, you're one of the few, I would say, lucky bands now to have a studio to yourself,
Oh yeah.
which is actually
We
great.
are very lucky. Yeah.
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 We
So
promise
that's
that's not why we chose Josh.
So that's nice to know. The thing is, not many bands have that privilege. I mean, many take up jam rooms on hire for practice, or they do it in somebody's drawing
That's
room.
actually how we landed up at the studio actually.
Great.
Like, we had practice at the Juhu Jam room for like
Okay.
Yeah.
3 days, 4
2
days.
yeah.
Then we realized we were like
It was too much work.
shelling out
It's-
money
yeah,
all the time
it's-
and moving equipment so often.
And you're not comfortable
You're
in
not
that
comfortable,
space.
you're not used to it,
Yeah.
and plus you keep changing jam rooms, you're not used to the sound, vibe.
Honestly, the main issue
Yeah.
for us is being a 6-piece band and having this much equipment. Is just taking it is, taking it and setting it up. Setting it up is an hour-long process almost.
Yeah.
So if you book 4 hours, 1 hour is gone in setting up and setting off, and that's just, and just carrying it there, and it's a lot of headache and a lot of.
And
I mean, a lot of bands go through that, and props
And
to them
they
who
have to,
and they
yeah.
keep it up. But since we're lucky
I think,
enough to
yeah.
have this space, we obviously are going to take advantage of it.
Correct.
I think we were just very lucky, because even before here we were at this place in Andheri which his mom owned, and we were really lucky to just have come by that place, and we set up our entire everything in there and became really comfortable and were jamming there. And then that place had to go under renovation. The entire building had to be.
Actually, the reason we had
Yeah.
that jam room was because it was going under renovation and the whole building was empty.
Yeah.
So we just sneaked our way in and just set up for
No
6 months to 1 year.
complaining neighbors.
Correct.
also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even then, some of them found a way to complain, but
Yeah.
we didn't bother listening to them.
So in a
But,
studio,
yeah.
the advantage that you have vis-a-vis a simple jam room is here you can even record and
Yeah.
hear back what you.
We've been doing that actually.
Yeah.
We've been doing that quite a lot.
We
It
share-
actually helps us like judge ourselves more than anything, because I mean we just place one condenser on top of the room, and we have like pretty decently recorded demos.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
the first
not
thing,
demos, but at least like trial and like tracks for ourselves.
No, like the first song that we composed with Josh in the lineup, which is the newest song that we're performing right now. As soon as it was kind of done being composed, we set up a mic in this room and we played it and we heard it back about 4-5 times to see if it's working. and we never had the chance to do that with any other song, and that was like a huge boon, because like you can suddenly hear a song playing back, because a lot of times the first
an
2
idea
years,
playing back before,
yeah, exactly.
before it's like a song itself, like
Yeah, like
So-
each idea that you individually put together into that song, hearing it as a collective is a really big bonus, which is why we went and recorded the EP in the first place in January, so that we could kind of gauge where we stand in terms of the sound of the band, what the band sounds like and what the songs sound like.
Correct. So should other bands also follow such kind of practice? I mean, maybe
If they have the
record-
resources, of
yeah,
course.
you should completely record and
it does
listen to
help.
yourself.
It
Yeah,
does
yeah,
help
It
you.
does, yeah.
Even
We've
if you prac-
recorded just jam sessions, like
yeah
an hour long or 2 hour long jam session, just left the mic on and left it to record and just practiced and done
honestly
a whole
just
set.
practicing one instrument by itself and recording it and just hearing yourself back,
Yeah,
you yourself will say, like, you could actually judge yourself and say what was nice and
Yeah.
bad about you alone.
yeah, like
So I mean, if you look at it as a band, it's okay.
Anything in particular that came across with this experience, that maybe the drum was being played louder or the guitar was not?
See, with one mic up here, you can't expect balance to happen in
Yeah.
terms of a mix,
Hmm.
but in
Yeah, all your ideas
you
come in.
get an idea about what it's sounding like as a unit. You get an idea about whether the feel is coming out. There are parts which you, while you're playing, might not be so sure about, which you think, not so great, and you go back and listen to it, and you realize, oh, it works as a piece.
Okay.
You
And
know,
like,
because
yeah.
while you're playing a song in a band in a room, it's a completely different experience from when you're sitting in that room just listening.
because when you're playing it, you're focusing on what you're doing, and
Yeah.
then when you hear it back, you're listening to everything as a whole. And with 6 instruments and
Yeah.
2 voices, it's like 8 things to take into account, which you just simply can't do
And
while you're playing the song.
even if
So-
you're playing on stage, I mean, sometimes, I mean, all the time it's just so loud you can't really concentrate on
Hmm.
what's happening, rather than my cue, my part.
Yeah.
there.
Correct.
Then you can learn to trust your instincts, that okay, I did this in this jam and it sounded fine on the recording, so if I pull it off in the show, it's gonna sound fine. So then
Yeah.
you learn to trust what you've been doing right and learn to change what you've been doing wrong, basically.
That's true. Now that Bollywood, I mean, that is supposed to be, wow, kind of a thing, because you reach out to masses and stuff. Obviously, you have your own fan following.
Hmm.
They also sing along, I'm sure, with.
Oh yeah.
Recently, yes.
Yeah, it started. I mean, it's bound to happen. I mean,
Yeah.
Pink Floyd is Pink Floyd after 20, 30 years.
Exactly.
You all have just started. So,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Bollywood is something that, everybody aspires to be because of popularity, fame, name, etc. But at the same time, new filmmakers are experimenting with sound. They're experimenting with new music, new forms,
Mm.
new genres, etc.
Mm.
English songs also. So if anybody approaches you in the next few months or whatever, will you be open to that idea of,
Yeah, I mean,
making
sure.
new
Yeah,
songs?
there's
As long as
saying-
Yeah, our only agenda is to make original music that is true to what we think.
yeah.
We just want to make our own music. So if someone approaches us to make our music for a movie, it's no big deal. I mean,
Correct.
we'll do what we do.
But they might ask you to sing in Hindi or English.
That
people
I mean,
might-
that honestly depends. I mean, we would really, the whole Hindi thing is just a thin line that we haven't gone into yet. But I think that's just because we haven't set in our sound. I mean, I don't think we want to reach a large audience singing Hindi songs when that's not what we do yet.
And that's not what we started out
Yeah,
with.
maybe 3 albums down the line, we don't mind, experimenting in it. We're really open to anything.
I
but-
think once our sound is established in general,
Yeah.
then I mean, we could experiment with other. I mean, why
Anything.
only Hindi, different
See,
languages?
Exactly.
So we-
See, the
That might be-
main focus of this band when it started out with the songs that we were doing was also to focus on the songwriting. And the two of us were writing songs in the beginning, and now almost the entire band
one by one.
writes those songs. But the fact of the matter is that our generation thinks in English and writes mostly in English. So we're used to thinking aloud in English. So
We can
when we
express
want
ourselves
to
the
when we
best.
want to express ourselves through our songwriting, and when we want to write a good song lyrically, then right now we can only trust our the vocabulary that we have in English. So if it comes to a point where we expand ourselves as people to learn new languages to the limit that we can express ourselves freely in that language, then why not? Like I would love to like be able to express myself in freely in different languages would be even better, and to incorporate that into music would I mean it's just another form of experimentation, which is what we're all about anyway.
Correct. Bands have to keep coming up with new songs. I mean, you can't just stick to your first release and say, this is it, and this is what I know. So when you kind of, like you said, write new songs, the words and things like that, do you have a theme in mind, or do you keep current, say, politics is hot topics?
No, honestly,
it?
the thing is that the lyrics just feed off what the vibe of the song, like what the vibe of, say, you start a song, say you're just screwing around with the guitar and you find a chord progression that that clicks in your head. Most of the time, not every time, most of the time the lyrics flow from the vibe of that riff or that chord progression or whatever. And honestly, a lot of the time the first line or the second line of the song tells you where the rest of the song is going. There have been few times where we've sat down and said, okay, we want to write a song about this particular thing, but
very few times.
Most of the time it's been where, because honestly, I feel that when you write, when you commit to the vibe of that first hook that has gotten into your head, I think the rest of the song, I think it stays more true to what the music is about. Like if you're trying to, I don't know how to explain it, but
express yourself.
Yeah. I just think it clicks more when you're writing to the vibe of the music. I think it clicks more. If you're trying to write something else, if you're trying to say something else with the lyrics and something else with the music, it usually doesn't work.
No, or there's the reverse, like the, I don't know what to call it. Basically, the reverse process would be to have a lyrical theme in mind and then write music that fits that theme. Then you can write about particular things. But I don't think we've done that much. Like so far we've always gone with something that musically connects with us and musically seems interesting to us. Because I think if we were to just pick a theme, like to just lyrics that we want to write songs on or music on, then I don't know, it could go. I think Lens Life, I think you would,
was the one.
Yeah, was one of the songs that he wanted to write about that particular theme, and then the music I think just came naturally.
But the lyrics still came after the music. I mean, it honestly, for me at least, for a lot of the time, the first line of the song and the melody comes together. Like the syllables go with the melody, and I think I don't know how to explain exactly, but it clicks more when you get that thing right. And then you can expand more and try to see where the song is going. But that first line, when you really, because that's what the listener is hearing first, that first line has to draw you in somehow. So when the syllable of what you're singing and the melody and the chords and the rhythm also, if all of them really click, I think that's when it starts moving.
Hi.
What can an audience expect when they come to your show? For example, suppose I know about you, but I have not heard you on stage. If you want to call people to your shows, what kind of music or what kind of songs can they expect? Lyrically also, are they romantic in nature? Are they, I don't know, and what to call them, but
I think it depends on the song. I think.
What kind of songs do you perform? Is there a set? Like you said, no set list.
Like when we're composing, there's no set list in mind. But when we're making a set list, we for a particular gig, we definitely take into consideration where we're playing, to whom we're playing. Like if it's say like a Sunday evening gig or something, then we don't want to be completely all out loud songs one after the other, heavy and just in your face the whole time. We try to put in like 2-3 acoustic songs or like the mellower songs to kind of just ease back every now and then. Like we do play all our our heavy hitting songs and all the songs that we really feel close to and we feel that connect with an audience. So we make sure that all those vibes are in there. And personally, I think as a set list right now with about 16 to 17 maybe songs that we have a good spectrum of different moods and different vibes
that we can choose from depending on what gig or what scenario. And even for like one gig, if it's especially if it's a longer gig, like more than an hour or something, we do take into account the journey from the start point to the end point. At least, like for us ourselves on stage and for an audience.
Okay.
We don't want an audience to just be fatigued by us hitting with loud. So we try to maybe if we start with this thing with loud 3 or 4 songs, then we mellow it down by the middle of the set and get into the moody thing, and by the end of it kind of get it back up. Or it depends. It depends on the venue.
Like we have songs that do the same thing, honestly.
Yeah.
We won't let none of our songs are like high on energy and throughout the song.
And then maybe attention, please.
but I mean not compared to Manic where it's heavy, hard hitting. You still have ups and downs, and so it still calms you down and then gives you an adrenaline rush and pushes you.
Thing is, we've written songs for an audience, for a live show, so not just the set list is based that way. It's become that each song is in itself a journey, from one vibe into another or from one mood into another. So we take that into account as well. So there's a lot of there's a lot of science behind making a set list.
So like we have in many shows, especially Bollywood based, where the lead singer asks, or even in Indian classical for example, you have the other musicians taking, coming in the limelight.
Acha,
For example, if there is, Shankar will make the tabla section, the percussion section play between,
the solo
in
section,
the show, section, and then there'll be just the drummer playing, and then there'll be just. So in your sets, do you have, for example, Zubin, who's some parts it's just bass heavy. So
I think we have a lot of parts that signify every instrument.
In the song, don't have anything which is each one of you.
Honestly, I think.
But our songs are not really a single instrument oriented song.
Exactly.
So everything it's like we engineer the song with all these 6 instruments coming together. The song is more important than the limelight or the solo.
It's not like it's a gig.
Like
it's not like it's the gig about the vocalist or about the guitarist or about the drummer. So it's not like that person has to make space for the rest of the people in one part at one part of the show. Everyone is getting equal treatment and equal whatever for the whole show, because we don't want to be a 6-piece band for the sake of it. We want the music to show it. So every song has 8, including 2 vocals, has 8 elements going on, which are valid.
Almost together. And I think that's our MO. That's our this thing for an audience to kind of be looking at the band and be listening to the band, and every time you listen to the song you hear a different part because they're all together, they're all playing almost all the time together.
Complementing each other.
So every time the audience listens to the same song, maybe the first 5 times they'll hear somebody else's part that they haven't heard before. So I think, and that's what really, personally I love that in music, the music that I listen to. So every time I go back to listening to a recording and I can hear something new, it just blows my mind. So I think that's,
and especially honestly, the more songs we've written, the better we've gotten at that. Because when we started off, we had a few lineup changes in terms of the number of people in the band, so we weren't so sure. But now that for a while, since we've been a 6-piece, we've committed ourselves to that. And I think a lot of our later songs, especially songs like Highs and Lows, which you can, if you've seen us live, you'll hear, you can hook on to one instrument for the whole song and you can stay interested, and if you listen to it again you can hook on to another one, and that's what we try to
everyone is actually doing
something interesting.
You won't have to pull focus off that one instrument throughout the entire
and
song.
no one's ever doing something they're bored off themselves, so if we aren't bored doing what we're doing, I'm sure the other person will.
I think that's when we stop composing, that's when that point comes that okay, this song is done, when everyone's happy.
And the advantage of this system is that you don't need to have those extreme technical chops to show off. You can be a band, you can be a successful band without being extremely talented musicians. Actually.
That's our motto. That's what we're going
that is a lesson for the kids who are growing up.
No man, everyone practice some bloody instruments, man. Everyone practice your
instruments, but don't practice to be a virtuoso.
No, do that, dude.
Now, when you go to multiple cities, have you all faced anything that today Bombay, tomorrow Delhi, day after Calcutta, you've done those kind of shows?
A little bit.
So when such things happen, do you kind of get fatigued in the last show, because like we've been playing last 2 nights and it is tiring. You can't just say that.
Well, on stage, if you ask me, on stage that feeling is never there, because
I think you're tired until you
excitement
reach
levels and your adrenaline and everything that just kicks in. So even though how much you are tired, like we've always faced this, like you said, like we've done shows back to back or something like that, but that fatigue is always there right before we go on stage or something like that. And we're
it's there throughout soundcheck, everything.
We are complaining about soundcheck, standing, holding like heavy instruments in our hand. All that happens there. Once you're on stage, I don't know, like at least personally for me, like that fatigue just goes away. It's just,
the minute you have that first countdown,
I'm like, wow.
You're like happy and like fun again.
You get into
honestly, also what helps a lot is feeding off a new audience. If you're playing
and a good audience,
like if we were playing 3 nights in Bombay back to back to the same crowd, because we're from Bombay and the crowd has seen us, so I think that's when the fatigue would kick in, because then you'd be playing the same thing to the same crowd. But if you're playing one day in one city, one day in another city, one day in another city, and you're seeing new faces and you're seeing new responses to each song, it's just refreshing. So we don't need anything more than that to kick us into being happy on stage.
Like a good example
you just mentioned good audience. That also helps you perform better.
Yes.
Yeah, of
Well, what do you mean by good audience? Because the audience is usually like,
if you have an audience that is like more enthusiastic, I mean, you're more enthusiastic to play for them.
It's
kind
kind
of exciting.
But it's also our duty to get them there.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they're like,
you don't have
some
to just
new band.
expect a better audience. Like you can't live on that. You can't just be a musician.
No, the responsibility basically lies on the artist as well as the audience, because I mean, the audience basically doesn't really have any responsibility to react, but it's your job as the artist to evoke a reaction from the audience. But I don't know, like sometimes there are just audiences that are interested, like that interest factor. I guess if it's there, then it's a good enough audience. If there's an audience that's just there to like eat their meal, then I mean that's not an ideal audience for us. I mean, if we can still get their attention and still have their eyebrows go up, it's a good thing for us.
Yeah, like we played a gig in Karjat or something, and I think there were like 8 people who enjoyed our music. But that was a fun gig.
Yeah, exactly.
It was interesting to play to 8 people.
Most of them were just asking for Bollywood covers, but we kept on going with our
Swedish House Mafia.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think a good gig is a collaboration between the artist and the audience. It's not if the whole one-way thing is, I think, an album, the way you can sit at home and listen to it and not need to react. But at a gig, it's an event, right? So if there's an audience and there's an artist, and you have to collaborate. If the audience is dead, or if the artist is dead and the audience is going crazy, it's a fail of a show.
But the gig is more of an experience.
Exactly.
And that's actually point of coming to a gig. I mean, I would buy a CD and listen to it and not react at all sometimes.
Exactly.
But if I saw them live, the same person live, I'd react to just like anything.
Just the energy.
Just the energy.
Yeah.
So it is a collaboration between the artist and the audience, and it is important for the audience to be a little interested. But when they're not, it's our job to get them interested.
And people should start going for more shows. Like, if you just like sit at home and listen to your albums that you really love, and just like if you love a part, you just go LOL or some shit like that, then that's not really a reaction that's not a real reaction. So once people come to gigs, they'll learn to love those artists that they've been listening to way more. So it just changes the whole scenario.
Great.
And I think like on a CD you play the same thing once, and that's what everyone hears, the same take, the same recording. Live, every time it's different.
It's different.
Do you all experiment on stage? For example, like you said, at least in Indian classical shows that I go to, the musician on
stage. There's a lot of improvisation.
If he likes the audience interact, I mean, I'm sure on stage you come to know whether the audience is sleeping or eating dinner and not even looking at us. You come to know easily.
Yeah.
So, but when the artist sees the audience responding or clapping or wow and all that, he starts improvising, and do you all do that also? Because you can always play 4 bars more. You don't have to end at.
Yeah, I mean that depends.
We
haven't done it yet, I would say.
The whole improvisation thing.
Like what you mean is basically if the audience starts reacting to some lyric or something, and if you think they're in the flow, you want to just increase those 4 bars extra before the next part comes.
So that they maybe clap more, or they like a groove
like
that Joshua is
those
playing.
Opportunities actually have come in. I mean, I've experienced such situations but we haven't done it yet.
Yeah, because the thing is, we're still a new band,
Yeah.
and we're still like musicians that are
Still
getting into
learning.
our
And
own.
also, very importantly, we have a fixed amount of time which we don't want to lose out on, and we would not want to like
Yeah.
cut out songs.
Like
So-
the previous gig, the very last gig we did was Delhi, and there was this song "Attention Please," and people were playing. We were singing. I mean, after the guitar solo parts come in, and there's this only vocal and bass part where the bass is keeping the groove, and the vocals are the most catchy part of it. And the crowd was singing to it.
Yeah,
and in
we
fact-
stopped singing.
And
yeah.
these guys stopped singing. In fact, I felt like, okay, let me just play 2 more bars. But I felt alone. But the other guys, I mean, had carried
No,
on,
but-
so
yeah,
we went
yeah.
into it.
Yeah.
But maybe next time we'll make a conscious effort to like
Yeah.
totally
Look
connect.
at each other
Yeah,
and
yeah.
go on, kind of.
Yeah, but that's the
Yeah.
disadvantage.
Yeah.
It's like a 6-member band.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
also.
communication and
Correct.
like.
Yeah.
But now
You
we
can't-
surely
Even
will-
if there's one person who isn't looking up and looking
Yeah.
at you,
So-
the whole thing can fall apart.
Yeah, you don't want to screw up the
You
song.
literally have to take a message from this end of stage to the other. So
And there's 5 people
Yeah.
between
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
So.
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we could have some signs or hand signs.
I'm
but
sure we
we
get
sure-
there.
I'm
It's
sure
not
we'll
about
look into
yeah.
that for sure. There's a lot to learn.
By
in
any
that
chance, I
also.
mean, all of us make mistakes
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
stage. I mean, the sound stops working in between.
Yeah.
That's what we've done. That like the
We've
maybe
grown up with
the
that.
maybe the second or third gig that we ever played with Josh, like something happened to the sound and the sound just went off or something like
first
that.
gig, man, that was Kino.
Yeah, and we just we played like
A random jam.
like a 5-minute intro to the song that we were gonna go next, and it just worked. It clicked, and we were all playing the same thing, and we were all enjoying it, and it was really nice, and the audience could see that we'd improvised it, which was really cool.
And actually doing that live on stage makes you so much more excited about playing.
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah.
Correct. So thanks for sharing all these kind of information and experience of whatever you've gained in last few months. And here's wishing you all the best for the awards as well
Thank you
as
so much.
Thank you.
as well as more releases,
Yeah.
singles,
Hopefully
shows, etc. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.